Rain pressed against the windows as Emma Turner brewed her evening tea. She loved the silence that wrapped the house she built alone. But the knock at the door cut through the calm like a blade. Linda stood there soaked, clutching a worn suitcase. Behind her was Jerry, shoulders broad, eyes cold, smiling like he owned the night. "We just need a place for a while," Linda whispered. Emma's heartbeat tightened, memories flickering like broken film. The house felt smaller the moment they stepped inside. Jerry's boots thudded across the floor as if testing territory. Emma forced a smile, but dread curled at the edges of her ribs. Outside, thunder rolled, but the real storm had already entered her home. Jerry claimed the living room on the first morning, as if it had always belonged to him. He dropped his jacket on the couch and turned on the TV without asking for the remote. Emma watched him settle in, legs sprawled, volume loud enough to shake the shelves. Her mother hovered beside him, apologizing with her eyes but never with her voice. Emma tried to make breakfast, but Jerry blocked the kitchen doorway with his broad frame. He rummaged through her fridge, pulling out food she bought with careful budgeting. He bit into an apple and tossed the core into the sink like it was a trash can. Linda laughed nervously, trying to soften his roughness with a fragile smile. Emma felt her home shrinking, the walls inching closer each time Jerry moved. By noon, his boots were in the hallway, his tools on the dining table, his beer cans on the floor. Emma picked them up out of habit, then stopped, realizing she was cleaning for an intruder. Jerry barked orders at Linda, telling her to fetch this or wipe that as if she were staff. Emma heard her mother obey with quiet footsteps, each one sounding older than the last. When Emma tried to reclaim her space by lowering the TV volume, Jerry glared at her. His stare was sharp, a reminder of a childhood she fought for years to bury. She stepped back, her hand trembling though she hid it behind her sweater. Later, Emma attempted to work in her office, but the noise from the living room seeped through. Jerry paced the hallway, opening doors like he was mapping out territory to conquer. He paused at her bedroom door, touching the doorknob with a familiarity that chilled her spine. Emma told him she preferred privacy, but he smirked as if privacy were optional here. Her mother appeared beside her moments later, urging her to be patient for a while. Emma bit her tongue, holding back the questions she knew Linda couldn't answer. She ate dinner alone in her room, listening to Jerry complain about the house's rules. He criticized the thermostat, the lighting, the layout, everything she chose with care. Emma curled beneath her blanket, hearing him stomp through the hall like he owned the night. The next morning, she found her favorite mug chipped in the sink without explanation. Her office chair had been moved, drawers slightly open as if someone inspected her things. Jerry greeted her with a mocking smile, sipping coffee from her replacement mug. Emma's throat tightened, but she simply nodded and prepared to leave for work. As she locked the door behind her, she realized she was fleeing her own home. The house that once held warmth now held tension, coiled tight like a wire ready to snap. Every hour Jerry stayed, rewrote the rules of the place she once loved fiercely. And Emma understood with growing dread that this was only the beginning. The tension broke on a Thursday night when Emma found her office door slightly open. Jerry was inside, sitting in her chair, flipping through her papers with slow arrogance. He didn't look up when she entered, as if she were the intruder, not him. Emma swallowed her fear and told him firmly to leave her workspace immediately. Jerry stood, brushed past her shoulder, and muttered that she had no real authority here. His words scraped at her nerves, tugging at memories she tried to forget for years. Emma blocked the doorway and demanded he stop touching her belongings without permission. Jerry stepped close, so close she felt the sour heat of his breath on her cheek. He asked if she really wanted to challenge him like she used to back then. Emma's pulse pounded at the reminder, the unspoken history neither of them named. She told him she wasn't a child anymore, and he couldn't intimidate her in her own home. For a moment, Jerry's eyes hardened, shifting from annoyance to something darker. Linda appeared behind them, wringing her hands, begging the two to calm down. Emma asked her mother to support her just once, to acknowledge what Jerry had done. The room thickened with silence until Emma whispered the truth she had buried. She said Jerry hurt her when she was younger, and she would not allow it again. Linda froze, her face draining of color, shaking her head in confused denial. Jerry scoffed loudly, accusing Emma of exaggerating and twisting old family problems. He shoved past her, knocking her sideways with deliberate force. Emma steadied herself, but something inside her cracked open and flooded with fury. She told him he would respect boundaries or leave, and she wouldn't repeat herself. Jerry spun around, enraged that anyone dared speak to him without fear. He raised his hand and slapped her with the same careless violence she remembered. The impact stung, but the betrayal from Linda stung worse when she rushed to Jerry's side. Linda whispered that Emma must have provoked him, that he didn't mean it. Emma touched her cheek, feeling the heat spread under her fingertips, feeling old wounds reopen. She stared at her mother, searching for even a flicker of protection or truth. But Linda's trembling lips offered only excuses wrapped in misplaced loyalty. Jerry smirked, proud of his dominance, certain Emma would fold like she once did. Instead, Emma walked to her phone with a steady, terrifying clarity. She told Jerry that if he touched her again, she would call the police. Jerry laughed, confident she wouldn't dare escalate the situation. But Emma's eyes were cold now, stripped of hesitation, stripped of childhood fear. Her mother begged her to let it go, insisting they could all talk later. Emma knew there was no later that wouldn't repeat this moment endlessly. That night, as she locked her office door, she realized the war had begun. And this time, she wouldn't be the one forced into silence. Emma sat across from Marissa Grant in the quiet office, voice steady despite her racing heart. She explained every intrusion, every insult, every shove, every slap that Jerry had inflicted. Marissa listened, taking notes, nodding at key details Emma sometimes forgot in anger. She suggested a strategy that felt like chess, each move precise, legal, and unassailable. First, they needed to secure the house legally, shifting ownership to a limited liability company. Emma agreed, realizing that making herself a manager removed Jerry's perceived claim entirely. Next, they cataloged each incident, threats, damages, verbal abuse, everything in writing. Emma began recording conversations discreetly, capturing the evidence that her mother ignored. They prepared police reports, photographs of damage, and messages that documented harassment. Marissa explained how courts viewed patterns of intimidation and what would be admissible. Emma felt a surge of empowerment, knowing each step was building a legal wall. She began installing cameras in key rooms, ensuring no one could claim ignorance. Each camera feed gave her reassurance she hadn't felt in years. Marissa emphasized patience, telling her to avoid confrontation and let the law dictate outcomes. Emma sometimes wanted to yell, to force Jerry out, but she practiced restraint. She moved her personal items into lockable cabinets, securing them against future invasion. Even small gestures like labeling her food and marking her personal space mattered now. Emma began documenting her mother's compliance, or lack thereof, in written logs. Marissa suggested professional statements from neighbors and friends if escalation occurred. Emma contacted her bank and utility companies to ensure all accounts were in her name. She realized that controlling the house legally would strip Jerry of any pretense of power. Emma felt a mix of anger and clarity as she drafted her first formal complaint for harassment. Marissa reviewed the wording, suggesting tweaks to strengthen her case against retaliation. Emma filed it with confidence, knowing the law would now act where her mother could not. Each submission, each report, reduced Jerry's ability to intimidate or manipulate her. She learned to anticipate his reactions, preparing evidence before he could deny or gaslight. Emma set firm boundaries, informing her mother that she would not intervene on Jerry's behalf. Linda hesitated, but Emma stood firm, insisting the law would protect everyone properly. Emma began coordinating with local authorities about emergency response plans. She installed extra locks and updated security codes regularly to prevent unauthorized access. Her home felt different with legal protections, cameras, and locked doors. Emma practiced speaking calmly, rehearsing explanations if Jerry questioned her actions. She realized patience, strategy, and documentation were her strongest weapons. By the end of the month, Emma noticed Jerry's boldness wane. He hesitated before entering rooms. Her mother grew uneasy, unsure how to mediate between Emma's rules and Jerry's expectations. Emma understood then that she was no longer reacting. She was controlling the board. And in that control, she found a sense of power she hadn't felt since reclaiming adulthood. Jerry stormed into the kitchen, fists clenched, eyes blazing with fury. Emma had left her laptop on the counter, and he kicked it to the floor. The screen shattered, scattering glass across the hardwood floor. He grabbed a chair and swung it against the wall, leaving deep gouges. Emma backed away, phone in hand, ready to call the police. Linda rushed to calm him, but her voice trembled and carried no authority. Jerry shoved her aside, cursing, and continued smashing anything within reach. Emma kept her distance, recording every movement, every threat, every word. He picked up a kitchen knife, brandishing it toward her like a twisted trophy. Emma's heart pounded, but her hands were steady on her phone. She dialed 911, speaking calmly into the receiver, describing the scene precisely. Jerry laughed, taunting her, thinking she would hesitate under fear. Emma ignored him, narrating the destruction, the threats, and the danger clearly. Linda tried to intervene, pleading with Jerry to drop the knife and calm down. He ignored her completely, eyes fixed on Emma, ready to escalate further. Within minutes, sirens wailed in the distance, growing louder with every heartbeat. Emma kept filming, showing the officers exactly what had happened inside the house. Jerry dropped the knife when he saw the flashing lights in the driveway. Police stormed in, commanding him to lie down on the floor immediately. He resisted briefly, shouting, but they restrained him quickly and efficiently. Linda stood frozen, tears streaming, finally recognizing the severity of Jerry's actions. Emma felt a mix of relief and exhaustion as the chaos settled around her. Officers documented the scene, photographs capturing the broken furniture and scattered glass. Emma handed over her recordings, providing proof of threats, destruction, and violence. Jerry was placed in handcuffs, still shouting but powerless now in the face of the law. Linda followed the officer's instructions, tearfully identifying herself as a witness. Emma's house, once filled with tension and fear, felt lighter with each moment passing. She realized that, for the first time, the threat was being addressed legally. No longer was she alone, no longer forced to confront Jerry's violence by herself. She watched as officers let him out, the weight of months of fear lifting slightly. Linda approached, hesitant, searching Emma's face for forgiveness or understanding. Emma's expression was calm but firm, signaling that boundaries would remain. The chaos left marks on walls and floors, but Emma knew they were temporary. Her victory was not in vengeance, but in reclaiming safety through evidence and law. Jerry would face consequences, and Emma would finally have room to breathe. That night, she walked through the house, nodding where cameras had captured each act. Every corner, every hallway, every room now held proof, protection, and control. For the first time in months, she felt that the home was hers again, truly hers. And in that clarity, Emma understood the power of preparation, patience, and law. Jerry was taken to jail early in the morning, handcuffed and silent. Emma stayed behind, watching from the doorway as officers secured the scene. Linda was required to pack her things within 48 hours, no exceptions. Emma hired a representative to oversee the process, avoiding direct confrontation. Boxes were stacked neatly, but the tension in the air was thick and unyielding. Linda moved slowly, her hands trembling as she carried years of accumulated clutter. Emma observed quietly, noting the items that had been damaged or neglected. Jerry's absence left a strange calm, like a storm had passed, but clouds lingered. Emma checked every corner, ensuring that locks and security systems were ready. She installed new codes on doors, cameras in hallways, and motion sensors outside. Linda whispered apologies, unsure if Emma would hear or respond. Emma nodded once, acknowledging her mother without breaking focus. Each box packed and removed felt like reclaiming a piece of her life. The house, once invaded, began to breathe again under her careful supervision. Emma arranged for professional movers to handle the heaviest and most fragile items. She refused to lift a finger, allowing the process to be observed through legal oversight. Linda sometimes looked back at Emma, eyes filled with guilt and uncertainty. Emma remained calm, her mind on the future, not on past betrayals. The final boxes left, and the house felt lighter, each room freed from tension. Emma walked through the kitchen, bedroom, and office, inspecting every lock. She tested the cameras, ensuring that every angle was monitored and recorded. The living room, once Jerry's claimed domain, now belonged entirely to her. She sat on her couch for the first time in weeks, feeling the relief settle in. Outside, the movers loaded the last of Linda's belongings into the truck. Linda glanced back at the house, unsure if she would ever return to it. Emma stayed inside, letting the doors close softly behind the past. The air smelled clean, almost sterile, yet it felt like freedom in its sharpness. Her phone rang with an automated update about Jerry's status in jail. Threatening calls from him were blocked automatically through a legal protective order. Emma felt the weight of months lift slightly with each confirmation of safety. She began planning small improvements to the house, creating her own sanctuary. Locks were reinforced, cameras checked, and alarms tested with precision. Every precaution was a silent promise that no one could violate her space again. Emma finally prepared dinner for herself, savoring the quiet and solitude. She walked from room to room, imagining life without constant fear. Linda left quietly, and Emma didn't follow. She let the law mediate distance. The home now felt like a fortress, controlled by her rules, not theirs. For the first time in months, she could breathe freely and plan for tomorrow. Her sanctuary had been restored, and with it, a sense of control she had long missed. Emma knew the battle wasn't over, but she had claimed her first clear victory. And in that clarity, she understood the power of strategy, patience, and boundaries. Jerry's trial began on a crisp Monday morning, the courthouse buzzing with quiet tension. Emma sat in the front row, documents neatly stacked, evidence organized and ready. Linda arrived hesitantly, her eyes avoiding direct contact, guilt etched across her face. The prosecution presented the timeline of violence, threats, and property destruction clearly. Emma's recordings played in court, each clip showing Jerry's intimidation and aggression. The defense attempted to downplay the incidents, claiming misunderstandings and exaggeration. Emma remained composed, letting the evidence speak louder than emotions or words. Witnesses confirmed Jerry's repeated violations, including verbal threats and physical attacks. Police officers testified about the 911 call and the destruction documented during the arrest. Photos of broken furniture, shattered glass, and damaged personal items were displayed. Each piece of evidence tightened the case, leaving no room for doubt about Jerry's guilt. Emma watched as her mother reacted, tears welling but silent, facing the truth at last. The judge asked Jerry directly if he wished to respond, and he muttered denials under breath. The jury examined the evidence, murmuring softly among themselves, tension palpable. Emma felt a weight lift with each moment, knowing justice was slowly taking shape. Legal experts explained each violation and its consequence, linking actions to charges. The courtroom held its breath as the sentencing phase approached, anticipation thick. Jerry was found guilty on multiple counts: assault with a weapon, threats, and destruction. He was also convicted for violating the protective order that Emma had obtained earlier. The judge handed down a sentence of 3 years in prison, firm and unequivocal. Jerry's smirk faltered as the reality of accountability hit, his power over Emma gone. Linda finally approached Emma, voice small. "I'm sorry for not protecting you before." Emma listened, feeling the fracture between them but opening a small door for healing. She knew the relationship would be fragile, requiring patience and careful boundaries. Therapy was suggested for Linda, a step toward breaking the cycle of toxic choices. Emma accepted it as progress, understanding that forgiveness didn't mean forgetting. She felt relief, knowing the law had enforced consequences she could not impose herself. Jerry was led away in handcuffs, the courtroom echoing with finality in each step. Emma returned home afterward, walking through rooms she had fought to reclaim. Every locked door, camera, and security measure reminded her of regained control. She felt pride, not for revenge, but for resilience, strategy, and self-protection. The house no longer felt like a battlefield. It was a place of safety and calm. Emma started to rebuild her routines, setting boundaries firmly with her mother. She allowed herself small joys: a cup of tea by the window, music in the evenings. Linda attended therapy sessions, reporting progress and showing willingness to change. Emma's relationship with her mother began to mend slowly, carefully, with respect. Months later, the home felt lighter, each room filled with autonomy and peace. Emma reflected on the journey, realizing her strength had grown through patience and law. Her life was not perfect, but it was hers entirely, reclaimed through courage and foresight. The court's judgment ensured safety, but Emma's choices ensured freedom for the future. She finally felt secure, knowing that boundaries, law, and vigilance would protect her. And in that security, Emma discovered a quiet power she had never known before. 1 year later, Emma woke to sunlight spilling across her living room. The house felt calm, every corner reflecting her control and careful planning. She brewed coffee, savoring the quiet, knowing the threat was finally gone. Locks were secure, cameras monitored the perimeter, and alarms tested regularly. Her daily routines were steady, predictable, and entirely hers to command. She arranged her office, desk neat, files organized, a sanctuary for focus. Emma's work thrived, each project completed with clarity and confidence. Her mother visited occasionally, their conversations measured, respectful, cautious. Boundaries were firm, but bridges of understanding were being rebuilt slowly. Emma no longer feared confrontation. She knew how to protect herself fully. The memories of Jerry's violence lingered, but they no longer dictated her life. She laughed freely in her home, a sound that had been rare for too long. Emma spent evenings reading, cooking, and enjoying the safety she fought for. Her home was her refuge, a place of empowerment rather than fear or chaos. She reflected on the journey, grateful for strategy, patience, and legal protection. Freedom was hard-won, earned through courage, vigilance, and unwavering resolve. Emma knew she had reclaimed more than a house. She had reclaimed herself. Each day, she chose her peace, her safety, and her own path forward. And in that choice, she found true strength, autonomy, and a life restored.